Okay, welcome to the Sports Coffee, the weekly sports chat. Thank you to our sponsors, our friends at InsureWise, who can help you with any insurance issues. So today's guest luckily we have Liam Palfreeman, who is a current England international futsal player. So Liam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Thanks for having me. Hope you're good.
Yeah, really good, thanks. So
Good.
just to make people aware, you're actually playing your futsal, in Italy at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm one of the lucky ones at the moment who's able to carry on playing. So I've been here since September, and yeah, it's been going really well. We're top of the league at the moment, so can't complain.
So how many games have you played so far?
We've played 12 so far.
12,
which is halfway through the season.
Halfway through the season, so you're in a good position. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in a very good position. Yeah.
So from your futsal journey, how did it start? When did it start? How did you get involved? How did you get involved with futsal?
So like most young boys and girls, I wanted to be a footballer.
Yeah.
Grew up playing football from the age of 6 all the way through till I was 18. I was at college with my tutor at the time, Craig Ady, who now works with a company called Precision Oxford. Is where we studied it was like a BTEC course, like sport and exercise science.
Yeah.
We played football on the side, and he said to me, he had a national league side called Team Newbury, and said, do you fancy playing it? I think you'd be suited to it. Obviously, I had no idea what futsal was, so I was like trying to get the quick 5-minute introduction on the rules. So yeah, he explained everything. We went and played Loughborough, who were one of the leading sports universities for futsal. With a lot of England internationals. Michael Scubala was the head coach of Loughborough at the time, and so we got beaten quite heavy.
Yeah.
I think it was like 13-1 or something, and I'm a really bad loser, but I come away thinking I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Which was like the strangest feeling for me, and I was like really intrigued and was like, yeah, I want to learn more about what futsal is. And just so kind of through college, we entered into national tournaments and carried on playing for his national league side. And then, I think once I was like 18, coming on to 19, I was like, I think this is the sport for me.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to go and play for Baku United, who were the only professional team in England at the time. Sure. So I spent 6 months with them, and that was just a different world on its own. Like what I learned in them 6 months, some people might learn in 10 years, because I was playing with, people who'd won World Cups, played at the very highest level, like Barcelona. So to go from, the football background that I had to that level of futsal, I had to learn very quickly.
Sure. So how did you actually get into being selected for Baku United?
So at the time they did a trial for English players, because the English league were changing the rule on the English quota for players. So they wanted to, instead of just getting any English player, they wanted to get some young English players who they could, try and coach and make into a good futsal player.
Yeah.
So I did 3 days. I had to travel to the Copper Box, which is quite a funny story, because I was petrified. So I'm from Oxford, and I was absolutely petrified of leaving Oxford. But then now, I'm flying here, there, and everywhere to play my futsal. So it's quite funny. So yeah, I did 3 days there. The coach saw something. So, I wouldn't say I was a futsal player at this time. So but he saw something. Probably from that decision there, probably why I'm here.
Yeah, no, definitely. So from the 6 months that you played for them. So where did your journey take you from?
So unfortunately, we won the league and the cup, and there was this big plan to make a super team, if you like, to try and win the Champions League. But unfortunately, the sponsor, the guy pulled his money from, because we had an Azerbaijani sponsor, and just decided he had enough. So I went back to my hometown in Oxford, but luckily at this time they'd come into a good investment, because they're working with the football club, Oxford City, playing the National League South. Yeah. So they just come into some money. We made a really good team, really competitive. A lot of Spanish players who had played, first, second division. So again, it was another good learning step for me. So back I was, just a nobody. And then when I go to Oxford, I become a bit of a bigger player, have to take some more responsibility. But again, we won the league and the FA Cup, and we went to Champions League, which was a great experience for me. So I was 20 now, so 20 at that time. So it was a great experience. You score 4 goals in the Champions League.
So what kind of teams, Liam, were you playing in the Champions League?
So we played the champions from Israel, Kosovo, and Andorra. But the Kosovan team, if I say actually, you're probably thinking, well, surely they're not going to be very good. But they had a really experienced team, and they brought in a lot of foreign talent, because that's what happens when it comes to the Champions League. A lot of teams buy a lot of players just for that competition. They had a World Cup winner, so it was a great experience to play against that kind of that caliber of player. So to score 4 goals, and that was the tournament when my teammates, like who had been professionals all their life, were like, Liam, you should consider playing abroad. So it was after that tournament was when one of my teammates put me in contact with an agent, to get a video together and try and get my video out there. And let's say, luckily, I did end up going to Italy that year. So after the Champions League, I didn't stay at Oxford. I went straight to Italy. I went on trial with a team called Potenza Picenza in Serie B. But unfortunately, I wasn't successful. The coach, for some reason, didn't like me, which is that's how sport works. But instead of coming home, the coach told me, he said, "No, we're not going to send you home. We're going to send you to this other team called Falconara, which they said it's my friend's team." So I was a bit like, okay, I'm not sure about this. This don't sound very, I'm trusting some guy that I've just met.
Yeah.
So I went to Falconara, did a couple of training sessions, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll sign you on a 1-year deal."
Oh, brilliant. So, what did you learn? What did you learn in that experience? Obviously, being your first.
Yeah, so it was my first year abroad. So, obviously it was difficult the first. The whole year, to be honest, it was difficult. But what I'd say is I learned about me as a player. Like, I grew as a player and a person, because when you go abroad, you've got to be the difference maker, if you like. You've got to be one of the big part players, because that's what you get paid to do. You're not there to make up a number. For them, you're like, they want to pay for the quality, and so whether that's scoring goals or if that's as a defender to stop the goals, So it was. I learned more about myself and probably gained more confidence in my ability.
Sure. Was that your first professional contract as well?
Yeah, first professional contract. Yeah. Okay. So it was really good.
So what were you doing, Liam? What were you doing before you became a professional futsal player? Obviously playing part time.
Yes. So I'd done college. I was going to go to Loughborough, but I didn't. I ended up going to work in a BMW factory for 6 months. But then when the chance of Baku came, I packed in my job to go and to try this 6 months with Baku, which they didn't pay me, but it was like, I think this is too good of an opportunity to turn down. It was like with Baku, it was 6 months, and if they liked how I improved, then they would offer me a contract, which they did. But like I said, unfortunately, the sponsor was taken away. So it was quite tough to deal with. But at the time, it was too good an opportunity for me to turn down, because I had aspirations of playing for England and whatnot, and I was like, this is the step I need to take to do that.
Yeah, definitely. So whereabouts? Because I would imagine having your first dealership with dealings with professional contract. Did you you mentioned earlier that you had an agent? Did you have an agent to help you get your first professional contract?
Yeah, so he was the one who organised the trial with the team in Serie B. But then obviously when I went to this other team, he still was involved in the negotiating of money and stuff. And so to start with, it's really important to have an agent, because like you say, if no one knows who I am, so you need that help for them to speak to to clubs.
Sure. Was there a language barrier as well for you? Obviously, coming in from England over to Italy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the culture, the culture, getting used to the culture and language is difficult. Even now, I've been playing in Italy for 3 years. I can speak a little bit more, but still not amazing. But yeah, the first time it is really difficult. But luckily, my captain could speak really good English, so that was a bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, it's definitely an obstacle that's sometimes tough to overcome. You know, we get by Google Translate and whatnot.
So you've not taken any Italian lessons or anything. It's just what you've learned from the
No,
players.
yeah, I've just learned from just what I've picked up, and you know, it's probably the one thing that I regret. Or what I should be doing is, like I say, studying on my own. But I find it quite difficult. I'd rather be in a classroom to learn rather than me be sat here in my bedroom now and go onto YouTube. I don't know. I find that really difficult.
Yeah. No, it's understandable. Everybody learns differently as well,
Yeah.
don't they? So, and the motivation of being in a class, being interaction with a tutor or something, instead of you,
exactly,
like you say,
just,
sitting watching the videos, it's harder to find those answers. Brilliant. So yeah, from that, a question on your obviously your international futsal journey so far. How many is it 8 caps you've had so far?
8. No, I'm in the 40s now. I've got 41.
Oh, in 40s. 41.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've not. Yeah.
So what? So when was your debut for England?
Oh, I didn't put me on the spot now. I should know that, shouldn't I? It was at Home Nations. But what year was that? 2016 Cardiff, I think.
Okay.
2017, because I know I've not missed an England game for about 4 years. So
okay.
So it was Scotland. I could tell you it was Scotland, but what is 2016 or 2017? I think.
Do you know what the score was, or did you win?
Yeah. So it was a Home Nations. So originally I was only going to go and play the one game against Northern Ireland, but Scoobs told me, because we had to play on a Friday night quite early, some people were still working. So he was like, just be prepared. You might have to play on Friday against Scotland. Okay. Luckily for me, one of the players couldn't arrive on time, so I got to play against Scotland. I had a really good debut. We won, I think it was 8-0. Got a few assists, and Scoobs was really happy with my debut, and I ended up playing all 3 games that weekend. So with the first game we played Scotland, we won 8-0. And the second game was against Northern Ireland, is when I scored my first goal for England. We won 16-1, but then unfortunately we lost against Wales 5-2 in the final. So bittersweet, because it would have been nice to have won it, but obviously I was happy to make my debut, score my first goal in front of my family. So it was a really nice moment.
Oh, brilliant. So where's the sort of the most games you've played? Have you played mainly home fixtures for?
No, we've been around.
Over?
Yeah, we've done a bit of everything. So I've been fortunate to we've played in China, in Thailand,
okay.
Which is once in a lifetime experience. I never thought I'd ever visit them. Them Asian countries. We've played in Latvia, Georgia, France. What else have we played? I think it might be a couple other places that I can't remember, because it said we have done quite a lot, and then obviously with the home games, we've done quite a lot of home games as well. So we had a good mix of different experiences.
From a futsal point of view, Liam, where is the country that you've played abroad have got the best facilities? So in terms of futsal.
So for me, Italy and Spain. So the two countries that I've played in. But they're really well equipped with their facilities, and even like their local cities, they've all got something to do with futsal, and it's not like a leisure centre. It's a specific hall that's for futsal, handball, volleyball, because that's like the 3 main sports here in Italy.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing that I noticed straight away when I arrived was, wow, there's so many different facilities that are just, like, say, specific for them 3 sports, and it's not just a small leisure centre. And that in itself,
it just helps the development, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
People access to facilities, which then gets the interest up as well, doesn't it? So you have more people exposed to the sport, whether it be futsal or handball, like you mentioned. So as an international player, what an up and coming young player or somebody seen this, what would be your guidance to somebody to say this is what you need to become a futsal international player from Liam, Liam Palfreeman's point of view?
I don't want it to sound cliche, but you got to work hard. Because people say it's easy, just work hard, but you really do have to work hard. It's not easy. You just got to have that fight, the determination. There's going to be ups and downs. I had plenty. In football, and I think that kind of molded me into being a stronger person. So I had a trial at Brentford when I was 18, just before I started all the futsal properly, and it was, I wasn't successful, and obviously I was really gutted because that's something at the time that I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you're going to have ups and downs, but it's how you deal with the downs. You've got to turn it into a positive to try and mold you to be strong, and give you that fight, that grit, that determination to try and make it. Obviously training, it's important when with your coaches. Got to listen to what they're telling you. But like I say, it's just not giving up.
Yeah.
That is I know it sounds cliche and easy, if you like, not giving up. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but yeah, it's for me, it was like never giving up. Because I was told, even before I got my England call up, I was told that I was maybe too small to be an England international.
Okay.
Because it was like, yeah, okay, so the conversation I had with a certain person was, you're good, you're like technically really good, but I want people to say Liam Palfreeman is good, not because he's small. I want people to say Liam Palfreeman's good because he is good, not just because he's smaller than the rest. So at the time I read that, that hurt me. I didn't take too kindly to that. I thought, well, what's my size got to do with it? But
did that inspire you to change change everybody's opinion?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I suppose in hindsight, that person's done you a good job, really, because he's probably given you a bit of fire in your belly to go, actually, because I'm small doesn't mean I can't be an international footballer. So that's probably inspired you to go, right, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I am proving you wrong if I've got over 40 caps for my national team now. So that's excellent. What are your future ambitions? I'm guessing try and get as many caps as possible, but what are your future ambitions as a player, for club and then onto sort of international stage?
So for England, it was to for the way that I've been going. Seriously, I've not missed a game for 4 years. It would have been to get the most caps, be the most caps player, try to get the most goals as well. That's from the club's from country point of view. From a club, it's just to try and play at the highest level possible. And just to show that there's a pathway for kids, that if they don't want to play football, that there is this other pathway.
Yeah.
To try and be, so like you say, maybe like an ambassador for like future English kids that want to go and play abroad.
No, definitely. Is there any other of your international teammates that play abroad as well, or are you the only?
There is one. His name's Wallace, but he's. Okay. I don't want to downplay it because he is. Obviously, he plays for England, but like he's from Spain. He was born in Spain, but he just had English parents, so that's why.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to say he's different because he's not, but he's typically like lived all his life in Spain. He never lived in England. So,
right.
So from I'm going to say pure English because that's not right, is it? But from. I'm going to say it, pure English.
He's been adopted country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We took him in.
Right. Okay.
So
brilliant. So again, through your futsal journey, I don't know. I asked this question to other sports players. Has there been a player or a manager that has inspired you? Doesn't necessarily have to be futsal to become who you are as a player now. Obviously, you've got attributes that probably come from football as well. But obviously, there's other skill sets that you need in futsal. So is there anybody that has inspired you during your journey?
I can give you a few because there's been along the way. There's been different ones. So obviously, you start with growing up with football. It was Frank Lampard. Was because I'm a Chelsea fan as well.
Right.
So he was my favourite player, and I just loved how he played. You know, yeah, like a midfielder being able to score 20 goals a season every year, you know, without fail, and number 8. So that's why I wear number 8 as well, to do with that, because obviously Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Then when now I'm into futsal more, you know, and I started to watch a lot more futsal. You know, the coach at Baku, Chema Jimenez, you know, he's the one who gave me my chance, and you know, he had faith in me, and you know, I'm very grateful to him, because you know, without him saying yes to me, I'm probably not 40 caps for England, and I've probably not done what I've done now. So for him, I'm thankful to him.
Yeah, sure.
Then a player that I aspire to in futsal is Alex Merlim. He plays for Sport in Lisbon right now, and he was voted 3rd best player in the world. And again, it's just like I say, I'm just fascinated by how he plays, and I feel like we're quite similar body types. Right. So I tried to watch him and try and see if I can copy some of the things he does.
So is there any way of you coming up against him internationally?
Yeah,
or
we played against him.
Oh wow!
We played against him in the World Cup in Italy. Yeah, that was an experience. Yeah, it was you know, start with you a little bit. Well, I was a little bit starstruck for a couple of minutes, but once the game starts, that's it. You forget all that stuff.
Yeah,
but, you know, in the tunnel when I'm stood there and he's stood next to him, it's like, yeah, doing all right.
Yeah.
But
no, that's amazing.
Yeah, they say they beat us 4-1, which in hindsight, you know, it's not a bad result for us, because you know they're boasted with all of them are full-time professionals, whereas you know we're not. So to be able to compete, we was 0-0 at halftime as well. So, and when it come down to it, Merlin was the difference. And I truly believe if he wasn't playing, we would have probably drawn that game 0-0. But it was his moments of quality that decided the game.
Wow. So again, you know, still somebody to aspire to, for that player, even being on the pitch, still somebody that you could take bits from, a match winner as well. So excellent. So we've touched on internationally. Obviously, quite recently, the FA have brought in updated their overall strategy, and obviously you'll be aware that futsal wasn't really mentioned in the new strategy. I just wanted to get your feelings on it, and have you been guided by the FA, obviously being an international player, have you been guided to reassure you that they're not, you know, futsal's not in the strategy, but it is still part of the bigger plan, or is it still something that's up in the air from?
No, so I'm assuming you obviously you've not quite heard it yet, but the international program don't exist anymore for futsal. They told us because of COVID, they had to make financial adjustments and they couldn't fund the national team basically. So the elite pathway. So you know we were due to have a European Euro Cup qualifier playoff in Macedonia in this November, and you know they cancelled on us 4 or 5 days before we were due to go, and that was from our own FA. That wasn't Macedonian FA. That was our own FA telling us we can't go and play. Right. So you know it's been a bit volatile, and you know we feel as players that we've been let down by our FA because there's been no transparency around the decision. You know, we requested meetings with the FA CEO Mark Willingham, but he keeps rejecting, don't want to talk to us. So yeah, you know, we're very, you know, sad and disappointed, heartbroken, and you know, we've been let down by our FA ultimately, and that's it. I'm not gonna.
I mentioned that because I saw a statement in the last week to say that they were cutting funding, but it was still part of the overall strategy.
Yeah, so
they're saying that they're
internationally,
that's not,
so they're saying
not going to work, is it?
No, exactly. So they're saying that they're still involved, but at a grassroots level. But for me, I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm glad that some people at grassroots will still be able to play, but I'm going to flip that and say, but without an elite pathway, will kids and people want to play it?
Yeah.
Because they don't have nothing to aspire to.
No, exactly. No, there isn't. You know, if you've got, you know, it's like having, you know, a kickabout with your friends, and then the next level is, oh, can I go and join a club? then if you're, if you get to a certain level, then you go to, maybe a regional team, don't you, or at the next level up, and then there's, in most sports there is then an international pathway, like you mentioned, which is why children around the country and the world, like you say, aspire to becoming the next Liam Palfreeman, or in futsal, because they've seen you on YouTube, or they've seen matches,
Exactly.
on TV. But if they haven't got that role model to aspire to, then I think it's very short-sighted, especially as probably in the last 5 years, futsal has really been embedded into the FA strategy. It's been embedded into the pro clubs. Scholars play leagues. The universities and the colleges have been playing. There's always been a an issue of maybe not enough facilities, like you mentioned in Spain and Italy, that the facilities are available more to be able to access futsal. But there's, it's very short in my book, on the record, it's very short-sighted, to just say, oh, we're just gonna let children have the opportunity to do futsal at grassroots. Like you say, the only time they'll probably do it, if there's no pathway, is because it's raining, and in the bad, the winter months, and then it will be forgotten about. I'm really disappointed to hear that from the FA. And yes, we're going through a pandemic, and yes, there's going to be cuts in certain roles.
Of course, and that
across the board, definitely. But there still needs to, all the teams still need to be supported. It might, it should have been maybe cut down, maybe staffing, to then keep the program going, because in a couple of years' time you're going to restart it again, after the next strategy. It just doesn't make sense, really.
Yeah, so like you say, we weren't. I'm not saying we didn't expect to take cuts, because obviously we knew there were going to be cuts. So the FA had to cut 20% across the board. That's what we were told. But when you look at it, we were cut 100%.
Yeah, totally.
So that's where we're like, well, how is that fair? And then it makes me laugh, because the FA told us the sole purpose is to help fund, men's and women's national team to win World Cups.
Yeah.
Right, which fine, okay. But then our budget was 0.2% of the FA's overall budget. 0.2%. So again, our questions to them was, so you're going to tell us that our 0.2% is going to help England men and women win a World Cup? No.
So if you had a magic wand, so to speak, Liam, and you were, listened to by we're listened to by the FA in some guys, what would you bring into the strategy to just to help get through these difficult times, but to keep the pathway open, so then like we say, the children of tomorrow can have players of today can have that dream of becoming an international player for England. So for me, it was, they could cut us. That's not a problem. They could even cut us 50-60%. We could still probably run a program. So that's all we were asking as national team players. Like the minimum we deserve is, like say, a pathway. And we don't get paid to play for England. All the players, when they come to England, they gave up their holidays. So they couldn't go on holidays with their families. They had to miss weddings, birthdays, kids' birthdays even. And they did that for the love of England, playing for their country. Sure.
No money's involved. So have just like a little bit of respect for us and our sport, because that's also another reason is they see futsal as only a development tool for football, which, okay, yeah, it has. It's got its links, but also futsal is a game in its own right. So have respect for us as a sport as well. And that's it, really. It's just a shame. Like you say, I'm still heartbroken with the decision and stuff. But at least I can say I had experience of it, I feel sorry for the kids of, like, say, the next generation who might not have that opportunity. They're the ones I feel sorry for, and all female players who were told there was going to be a national team, but there's not, and they're still waiting for that pathway. So they're the people that I feel sorry for.
No, definitely. And I've seen on Twitter, and I've seen that there's been a new organisation looking to start up. I think it's England Futsal Association. I think I'm not sure if I've got the correct terminology. But is that something that you would, as an international player, sort of put your weight behind and say, you know, if all the clubs are signing up to this, is it something that you can sort of give your support to, or is it something that you can't currently? Just to the situation.
I've not read into it, so I don't know exactly what and who they are.
I think they're being voted on. I think they're being voted on, and most of the clubs in England are it seems to be signing up to the organisation.
I personally have to look myself I know what it is that they're doing. But then, of course, if I agree with it, then absolutely I'll give my whole backing, and anything that I can do to help, then that, of course, I'll do that, because obviously ultimately we all want the game to keep growing and to become, like, to show everyone how good this sport is, because it really is, you know, one of the best sports in the world to watch and to play. You know, like, I can give you an example. My dad, growing up, you know, didn't like football, didn't play football. But then, you know, never really cared about what I did football wise. But then once I started playing futsal, and he come and watch one game, changed. He was he's so busy. Like, he's always ringing me now, like, phoning me, how was training, and I saw this video the other day of Ricardinho, and it's really good. And that's for me, and that's like, if futsal can convince my dad, who was pretty anti-football, like not bothered one bit about it, but then he's so fascinated by futsal, like enthusiastic, fascinated, whatever. You know, that's what futsal can do, and it will do. Like, I can 99.9% take someone who's never seen a game, take them to one game, and afterwards they'll be like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna keep an eye on this sport.
No, definitely. So touching on that, and we'll wrap up here, Liam, and really appreciate your time and your insight into your journey so far. If people want to keep an eye on your journey, obviously, you know, for your club at the moment, how can they do that?
So I put a lot of links out for my matches, and that's normally through my Facebook page. So I have two pages on Facebook. I have my player page and then my normal page, but I try to put the link on both or all social media, so Twitter, Instagram. So if they want to see, say, some live futsal, then the links will be available if I can put them. Not all teams stream, but we stream every home game for sure. So
well, if you send me them over, Liam, when this episode gets released, then that'll be on the description as well. So we can have a link through for people to be able to watch you live or watch highlights of your matches going forward. So I'd just like to thank you for your time. All the best for the rest of the season. Obviously, it seems like, you know, you're pulling up trees at the moment, and hopefully you'll win the league and get promotion, and at least have some positive, news coming out of your futsal journey. Fingers crossed. Cheers. The future, the FA hopefully, once to end out the COVID situation, they might have a rethink, and hopefully, the clubs maybe get them to change their minds. Fingers crossed. But again, brilliant to have you on. All the best for the future. And obviously, this episode will be put onto our YouTube channel. We'll be putting it on in half term, so in about a week's time. We'll put it on Twitter and Facebook, our Facebook page as well. So it's the exposure on there for you, and then hopefully we'll go from strength to strength. So again, thanks, Liam.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. That's the end of today's show. Like I say, we've got a couple of episodes coming up. We've got an episode coming live on Tuesday, Bruce Tarrant, who is a head coach of a tennis club, but is also an author of a Wimbledon tennis book. So it's a very interesting chat. And then we've obviously got Liam's interview from today. So all the best, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.